episode of the Park2Park podcast, where we compare theme park offerings from coast to coast. We don't always see eye to eye, but in the end, we try. I'm CJ, and once again, I have Alli with me. Alli, how are you doing on this Friday evening?
Hi, CJ. I am doing phenomenal on this Friday evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. Went for a little run, ready for the weekend, and yeah, just another day here in Orlando.
What are we talking about, CJ?
We are, well, I hope you have your passport because we are going on a journey.
It's in the filing cabinet. Should I get it?
You know, maybe you should, because we are going on Soarin Around the World, Soarin' over California, and Avatar Flight of Passage.
Is there like a special passport stamp for the Avatar one? Because I feel like that's off planet somehow.
I think we might be getting there with space tourism.
Star Tours.
Anyways, let's talk about our favorite things about each of these rides. Alli, let's talk about Soarin' over California, and you don't have to specify it to the Disneyland version or the Epcot version, just the film Soarin' over California. What's your favorite part of that?
I really like the smells, the orange groves and the pine trees, and it's not officially stated, but I feel like you can just feel the ocean and smell the ocean breeze at some points too.
Yeah. My favorite part is I like that, you know, when it first opened, it was a really unique ride experience. I feel like people hadn't seen anything like it before. It's just one of those, you know, it's one thing to build a ride that's on a track and you're looking at stuff, or to build a roller coaster, but this just felt so new and so different. And I still kind of get that feeling when I go on the ride. Also, in the California version, I don't know if they've updated the ending of Soarin' over California, but in the original version, it was like pre-refurbished Tomorrowland, I guess, and you could see the Rocket Rod sign, so I really like that part.
I've never noticed that.
Yeah, you have to look off to the right when you're like flying down Main Street.
I'll look for that next time I get a chance to go on Soarin' over California, which I have no idea when that'll be, but I'll look for it.
And honestly, I don't know, since they filmed World, if they refilmed the ending to California. But I know, like, back in the day in the original one, you could still see, like, Rocket Rod neon sign on the right side. Anyways, fun. How about Soarin' Around the World? What's your favorite part of that ride?
I like that they kept Patrick, your chief flight attendant.
Yeah, and for me, I like that the music is similar enough to the original. It kind of pays tribute to that, and I just really enjoy that. And for Flight of Passage, what is your favorite thing about that ride?
I really like the ride vehicle and the experience of being on that ride vehicle while riding that ride. And I'm trying to be as non-specific as possible just in case it's, you know, it's still a new ride. So if people haven't been on it yet and they don't want to get those little spoilers.
Yeah.
Ride vehicle.
Yeah. For me, it felt like a step up for Disney rides, and that still holds true in my opinion. It just feels so different and so unique. So I really enjoy that. You know, both for Soarin' and Flight of Passage, I feel like Imagineers like pushed the boundaries on what they normally do, and it's really exciting to see them do stuff like that instead of building just like a dark ride or a roller coaster or something. So yeah. I like that Flight of Passage continues that tradition for Imagineering. All right, let's talk about opening dates. Alli, you're going to be talking about Soarin' over California / World at DCA.
Yep. So Soarin' over California at DCA opened on February 8th, 2001. We have an opening day attraction.
Whoa.
Pew, pew, pew. And it officially closed on June 16th, 2016. But it has made a couple of comebacks. So its first return was from May 31st, 2019 to August 31st, 2019. This was originally only going to be a month long, but it was so popular that Disney said, oh, okay, we'll extend it to the end of summer.
I have a conspiracy theory about that.
Okay.
That was the same year that Galaxy's Edge opened at Disneyland.
It was.
And remember, attendance was like lower than expected that summer. Remember?
No.
Okay, well, it was. Like, it just, they expected like crowds and crowds and crowds of people, and it just didn't really happen. And so part of me thinks that they extended it to try to get people to buy tickets to go on Soarin' over California. Like, oh, it's extended. We better go see it before it goes away forever. Kind of one of those things.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case.
Yeah.
But it was not to go away forever after August 31st, 2019. Its second return was, unfortunately, so the first return was extended and the second return was cut short, like everything else, because it was from February 28th, 2020 to March 13th, 2020. Everything got cut short as of March 13th, 2020.
Yes.
But it did make another triumphant return March 4th, 2022 through April 26th, 2022. And it came back again this year, March 3rd, 2023 to April 25th, 2023. And the Disneyland website has promised it will return for the 2024 Food and Wine Festival at California Adventure as well.
Yeah, so lately it's been coming back for the Food and Wine Festival, which is something I really love about DCA. Their Food and Wine Festival, Epcot has like the International Food and Wine Festival, but DCA, theirs really celebrates California food. Like you'll find like an avocado themed booth or something like that, and like a citrus themed booth. And so I like that they bring back the Soarin' over California version to like ramp up the fact that the Food and Wine Festival celebrates California.
That's so great. And you know what? I didn't know that Soarin' over California was back because this is like right when I was there earlier this year. And had I known, I probably would have done a second day and gone to California Adventure.
Alli!
That's fine. I just have to go back another time.
Yeah, you do have to go back another time, I guess.
Yeah.
So what about Soarin' Around the World? When did that open at DCA?
So Soarin' Around the World opened at DCA on June 17th, 2016. So it was the day after Soarin' over California ended. There was no downtime.
Yeah. So at Epcot, Soarin', it's just called Soarin' at Epcot. They never, even though they had the California video and now they have the Around the World video, they never called it Soarin' over California. It's always just been Soarin'. So Soarin' at Epcot opened May 5th, 2005. Do you know the significance of that date?
I mean, it's a whole bunch of fives.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. 2005 was the what anniversary of Disneyland?
50th.
Yes, so May 5th.
I had to do the math there.
May 5th, 2005 was the day that Disneyland kicked off its 50th anniversary, celebrating the whole summer and the rest of the year or whatever. So the story goes that they were bringing like Disneyland / California themed stuff to the other parks around the world. So that's why it opened May 5th, 2005 at Epcot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fun story.
Yeah. And it closed January 4th, 2016. With Soarin' Around the World opening officially June 17th, 2016.
Why the big gap?
Okay, I'll explain this. This is kind of weird. So they did a refurbishment from January 4th, 2016 to like May 27th, 2016, something like that, to bring in a third theater.
Okay.
And then, so they had Soarin' California version for like 2.5 weeks, and then they opened Soarin' Around the World. Yeah.
All right.
Strange decisions by Disney, but
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom opened May 27th, 2017. Shall we do some fun facts, history, and trivia? As Alli is yawning over there.
Yeah, look, I had a very late night last night, and I've had a very long day today. So, but yes, let's do the fun facts, history, and trivia, starting with Soarin' over California. So it stars Patrick Warburton as your chief flight attendant. Always has, always will.
Hopefully always will. We better knock on wood for that.
In the PGA scene, Michael Eisner hits the golf ball, which does in fact have a hidden Mickey on it. I have seen it several times. Soarin' over California was considered the world's first flying theater. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
The original name for this attraction was Ultra Flight, and you can allegedly still see this name on tower consoles on the DCA version of the ride.
Do they mean like consoles outside the ride or in the queue, or do you think it means like when you're on the ride and you see the cast member off to the left or right in their little operation booth thingy?
So my thought on this was the cast member operation console booth, like in ride, but
Okay.
I have no idea. I
Okay.
pulled this fact from Wikipedia.
Well,
So
you'll be there in not that long, so you'll have
yeah,
to report back.
yeah, I will add a note in my phone to look at it because it's like 4 months from now. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the original plan for this ride, there were going to be 3 separate levels of boarding, and the whole system was going to operate much like dry cleaners racks would operate.
That kind of
Um,
sounds fun.
it does kind of sound fun, but you know what it also sounds like? It sounds like it's cost prohibitive. So, fortunately, engineer Mark Sumner figured out the new and improved way to do it, and he solves this problem using an erector set and some string. And that saved Disney a whole bunch of money and gave us the beauty that is Soarin' over California. I missed the opportunity to say these little beauties. Um, so originally, the ride had IMAX systems, but it now uses a laser illuminated digital projection array. Try saying that even 2 times fast. That's a lot of words. The film crew had to get special permission from the Department of Interior to film over Yosemite because that is protected airspace. The Monterey and Point Lobos scenes were also difficult to get permission to film because it's considered a marine sanctuary and they weren't supposed to disturb the protected wildlife. So one of the boats during that sequence is from NOAA, not like Noah Ark, but NOAA
Oh
NOAA.
my gosh.
And they're keeping an eye on the animals during the filming.
Okay, so some of these facts that I'm going to share apply to both California Adventure and Epcot. The DCA costumes over in California, they look like airfield crew uniforms because of the land in which the
Makes
ride
sense.
takes place. And in Epcot, they look like flight attendant uniforms. And I actually really like their costumes at Epcot. I think they're really cool. So, like I said earlier, originally the Epcot version had 2 theaters and it went down in January 2016, reopened May 27th with 3 theaters. So they increased their capacity by 50%, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it showed Soarin' over California for just a few weeks before Soarin' Around the World opened. The flight number is Flight 5505 over at Epcot, which is a nod to its opening date. And filming for the Around the World version involved 5 different IMAX cameras set up in a rig. And after filming, an algorithm combined all those 5 images into a single shot.
Wait, they actually filmed stuff for Around the World? I thought it was all
Ouch.
CGI.
Alli, hold back a little bit.
I will not.
And then some miscellaneous fun facts about about the Soarin' franchise, I guess. Shanghai Disneyland has their own version called Soaring Over the Horizon, and Tokyo Disney Sea also has their own version called Soaring Fantastic Flight. Not going to get too much into it, but it's, the same concept, but a different setting, and the film is very similar, just some slight differences here and there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then Flight of Passage. Flight of Passage got second place in the 2017 Golden Ticket Awards for Best New Ride. In case you're curious, the number 1 that year was Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. It won the 2018 Visual Effects Society Award for Outstanding Visual Effects in a Special Venue Project. The film is 100% original, and according to Alli, it's canon to the Avatar film series. I have not seen Avatar, so
I haven't either, but I think Louis told me it's canon. I don't know. Somebody told me it's canon. So
okay, well we can blame Louis. We can blame Louis if that's an incorrect fact.
Okay.
James Cameron was involved in the project from the get-go when work began back in 2012. There were warning cards about motion sickness, ride restraints, and fear of heights that were added in 2018 after 4 incidents. But those have since been replaced with a pre-recorded verbal message that plays in the queue room immediately before the ride. So, yeah.
I have no information on what those incidents were.
I don't either, but I wouldn't be surprised if people flipped out,
Yeah.
They
got
make
motion sickness, got scared, couldn't
right.
fit in the ride restraints.
They make it very clear on Soarin', if your party has a fear of flying or of heights, you may want to wait for your party at the arrival gate. Versus, I feel like in Flight of Passage, and they show you getting on the ride vehicle, the row and like flying up in the air. So like they
Yeah.
show your feet leaving the ground, and it's not so obvious what happens on Flight of Passage. So I can see that taking people by surprise.
Yeah. I feel like it's better to not show it for Flight of Passage because it is so unique that it's
Yeah.
like you don't want the surprise to be spoiled if it's your first time.
Right. That makes sense. All right. Let's talk about location and land.
So at DCA, you can find Soarin in Grizzly Peak, which is formerly Condor Flats. When you go into the park, you make the first right that is not directly into a shop or restaurant.
This is a side note, I really like Grizzly Peak. Condor Flats, like, I think back to it and it was so barren, you
Yeah,
know?
Grizzly Peak feels more like redwoody, and Condor Flats felt very concrete.
Like Edwards Air Force Base out in Riverside County, I think. That's what it reminded me of, and maybe that's what they were going for. But if you haven't, listen, if you're relatively new to going to Disneyland or DCA, and you don't know what Condor Flats looked like, you should go look at it because it's kind of the epitome of DCA 1.0, in my opinion. Okay, so Soarin' at Epcot is in the Land Pavilion on the lower level inside on the left side by the exit of Living with the Land. It took over the space that was Food Rocks. And then Flight of Passage is in Pandora, the World of Avatar in Animal Kingdom, and it's tucked in the back, like middle-ish of the land. All right, let's get into the queue and the exterior.
At California Adventure. Hey,
What?
you made a trumpet noise as soon as I started speaking.
Okay, let me trumpet you into this section. Queue and exterior. Go.
Thanks, CJ. So at California Adventure, the queue is outdoor and mostly covered switchbacks, but it takes you into a building that is kind of like an airplane hangar, and it feels like you're going into an aviation museum. You got like the pictures on the walls with informative captions, and when you're inside the building, you're just like slowly, gradually walking down a ramp. So you get into the building, and then you meet the cast member who tells you left or right, and you go left or right, and you go down the ramp again, even farther, and then that's where they sort you into ABC 123, left or right
Yes.
theater.
B1 for life.
Yes.
Pro tip, ask for B1. Okay, so at Epcot, it's completely inside, nothing is outside. So it's air conditioned, obviously, and there's a bathroom right next to the entrance for the ride, so go to the bathroom if it's a long wait. You enter the queue and you walk down a really long carpeted ramp under a sign pointing towards all concourses. You'll see video screens with trivia questions, and you can play along on your phone, which I have never done. The building then opens up a bit, and like it's still inside, but it's just wider, and you see like giant screens to show the stuff for the trivia, and it's got this curved roof, and it's supposed to look like an airport terminal basically. So then you take a turn towards the lightning lane and stand by merge point, and you see these like blue LED curved lights on the wall, and then overhead there's these white cloud like lights, which I think is pretty cool. I think that's nice theme. And then you're directed to terminal A, B, or C, and then you head down the ramp to the loading zone for A123, B123, or C123. And then for Flight of Passage, it's mixed outdoor indoor queue. It's mostly indoor, but the outdoor portion can be pretty long depending on how you time it. So, if it's supposed to rain that day and you're planning on going on Flight of Passage, like make sure you got your rain gear ready to go. This comes from a place of me waiting in a line outside in the pouring rain with our ponchos on. So, all right. So the setting for this is within the remains of a former Resources Development Administration facility. And basically you're going into the ACE lab where guests are linked to an avatar and fly aboard a Banshee. So the outdoor portion winds through the jungles and waterfalls of the Valley of Moara. And this is a really cool opportunity to get some awesome pictures. So if you want to let people in line pass you while you take pictures, feel free. Then you head inside and you go through a lot of different scenes. The first one you see is a cave behind the waterfall. You're like winding through the cave, and then you go into a bunker-like setting behind an airlocked door that's sitting there open. And right there, there's a bathroom in the queue. It's a long queue, if I have not made that clear. And then you go into a glowing hallway with Pandoran flora. Then you get into the lab section where you see some experiments going on, and there's a lot of detail in here. And if you're doing lightning lane, you don't see a lot of that. So if you're interested in seeing that, I would go first thing in the morning, like rope drop it, or wait until the very end of the night for lower weights. Finally, you get to a cast member who assigns you into a line, and then you go on to the pre-show, and the pre-show links you to your avatar so you can fly. Let's move on to music in the area and the queue.
So, Soarin over California, and I'm not sure if this is applicable for Soarin Around the World at California Adventure, but you've got inspirational music from aviation-related films. Patton, MacArthur, Air Force One, The Blue Max, Explorers, The American President, Dragonheart, Dragon, The Bruce Lee Story, Angels in the Outfield, The Last Starfighter, Apollo 13, The Rocketeer, Always, Band of Brothers, which is a miniseries, not a movie, and the Air Force Song and Jupiter from Gustav Holst's orchestral suite, The Planets. Those were in the movie The Right Stuff. That's a lot of different options there.
So I went on Spotify a long time ago and just looked up Disney playlists, and a whole bunch of music from this movie. Like, I just added it to my liked songs, and it comes up occasionally, and I'm like, oh, this is from Soarin'. So anyways, at Epcot, it's not like that really. It's kind of just some light instrumental music in the background until right before you get to the pre-show area, where then you hear the Soarin' soundtrack that you hear on the ride. So, and then for Flight of Passage, there really isn't music. It's mostly like animal sound effects from Pandora. So,
all right.
Yeah. And like rushing waterfall noises. Yeah. Much like the rest of Animal Kingdom. Anyways, let's talk about the ride vehicles. Go for it, Alli.
California Adventure has 2 theaters. And I'm sorry, it says each vehicle has 3 rows of seats with a capacity of 87 guests, but I think...
Yeah, think about like...
So, hold on.
A, B, C.
Yeah, each like section A, section B, section C is like the vehicle. So there are 3 vehicles per theater. So 3 rows of seats in the front row, 3 rows of seats in the middle row, 3 rows of seats in the back row. And the part that
9 rows total.
9 rows total. But the part that I got confused on these notes, it said each vehicle has 3 rows of seats with a capacity of 87 guests.
Total capacity.
Yeah, the vehicle does not contain 87 guests. The entire theater has 87 guests. So my brain got a little wonky there. I haven't had dinner yet. It's fine. Anyways, there is a cantilever system that lifts the rows forward to the screen. Alpha carries 27 riders, Bravo carries 33, and Charlie carries 27.
Soarin' is exactly the same, but there's 3 theaters instead of 2. And Flight of Passage, you're not on a vehicle, you're riding a Banshee. Duh. Basically, there's 3 rows with 16 riders per row.
Yeah, and Wikipedia called it a link chair. And before we move on from this, we need to talk about the ride vehicles at Flight of Passage a little bit more.
Yeah.
And we need to talk about accessibility on these.
Yes. So for Soarin', you just sit there and you pull the lap bar across the lap belt across your lap.
Buckle your seatbelt. Yeah.
Yes. On Flight of Passage, you are basically boarding a motorcycle, and a cast member comes to you and pushes the thing down on your back to hold you in place. Oh, and you have 3D glasses too. So,
forgot about that part. The thing with Flight of Passage is that if you are a little thick, you may have some difficulties getting into this ride. It is not size inclusive.
Also, as a parent, you're not like, you're next to your kid, but you're not like, it's not like Soarin' where you're sitting right next to them and you buckle them in. Like, they have to be able to sit on their own. You're not going to be able to reach out and really hold their hand or anything. So I think I don't have any proof of this, but I think maybe that's why this one has a higher height requirement, which we'll get into in a little bit, because it takes some level of maturity to be able to sit there on your own and not flip out or whatever.
I also think that has to do with the restraints. If you're too
Mm-hmm.
small, the restraints aren't going to work properly. So,
Right. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the on-ride music.
Soarin' Over California, Jerry Goldsmith did the score for this. When he rode the ride for the first time without any music, he absolutely was moved to tears. He thought it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. So he wrote a serene theme for horns and strings, and the grandest vistas include some triumphant fanfare.
Yeah.
The music from the original version, you can still hear it in the Esplanade at Disneyland and in the Epcot entrance plaza.
I don't know if that's still true for the Epcot entrance plaza because they updated the music like a year ago.
Okay, you may or may not be able to hear it at the Epcot entrance
Yeah.
plaza. Somebody
Yeah.
sit there for 12 hours and report back, okay?
So at Soarin' Around the World, it's a new score by Bruce Broughton, who's done a lot of music for Disney as well as outside of Disney, and it's heavily based on the original score. Goldsmith passed away in 2004, so that's why they did not bring him in for the new one,
Hard to
obviously.
do it when you're dead.
Yeah. And then Flight of Passage, the music is by James Horner and Simon Franklin. So let's talk about the general storyline and route. Alli, take us through Soarin' Over California.
So for both Soarin' versions, the ride vehicles will travel up into the air around a curved 180-degree screen dome. The original Soarin' Over California, the film is 4 minutes and 51 seconds, and it is a simulated hang glider tour of California. Appropriate scents fill the air as ride vehicles move gently to simulate the sensations of flight. In addition to the various landscapes, you get highlights of recreation in the state, such as skiing, river rafting, kayaking, golf, horseback riding, hot air ballooning, surfing, and hang gliding. So, in Soarin' Over California, you will visit the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, Redwood Creek in Humboldt County, where you can smell the redwoods, Napa Valley, Monterey Bay, Lake Tahoe and Heavenly Mountain Resort, Yosemite Falls at Half Dome, the PGA West Palmer course in La Quinta, which is credited in the queue as Palm Springs, Valencia Orange Groves over unincorporated Ventura County, which is credited as Camarillo, and it feels like you're there because you can smell those oranges. You have Anza Borrego Desert State Park, the USS John C. Stennis at Naval Air Station North Island in San Diego, the beaches of Malibu, downtown Los Angeles, and culminating in the Disneyland Resort in Anaheim.
The Soarin' Over the World is about just under 5 minutes. This one uses a lot of CGI, so you'll notice if you've been on it, you will definitely notice the CGI. So the first place you go is the Matterhorn, like the actual real Matterhorn, not the ride, in Switzerland and Italy. Then you go to Greenland, then Port Jackson in Sydney, Australia, then Neuschwanstein Castle in Bavaria, Germany, which is the castle that Sleeping Beauty Castle is based off of. Then you go to Kilimanjaro National Park and Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, where you smell a grass scent. Then you go to the Great Wall of China in China, which is cut in the Shanghai Disneyland version. The Great Pyramids in Egypt, then the Taj Mahal in India, where you can smell lovely flowers. Then you go to Monument Valley in Arizona, and then you go to the Lau Islands in Fiji, where you get a really nice ocean scent. Then you go to Iguazu Falls in Brazil and Argentina, and then the Eiffel Tower in Paris. That's in the Shanghai Disneyland version, DCA, and Epcot version. In Tokyo Disney Sea, you go to Tokyo Tower instead of the Eiffel Tower. And then we get to the final ending scene. It's different for each location. First of all, the Shanghai Disneyland version flies over Shanghai. The Disneyland version flies over Disneyland. The Epcot version flies over Epcot. And the Tokyo Disney Sea version flies over Tokyo Disney Sea. What a shocker.
So I have a hypothetical
Yes.
for you.
Okay.
So the 12th location, the Eiffel Tower in Paris. If this ride ever comes to Disneyland Paris, do you think they will keep the Eiffel Tower or do you think they will do something different?
I think they'd keep it.
Yeah, okay.
No,
Fair
wait.
point. Wait, the French are very proud of being French. So
Maybe it would fly over the Eiffel Tower that's on the Las Vegas Strip.
that would be so dumb.
I just want to see what the Parisians' reaction would be to that.
I think it would be interesting if they flew over the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Since they gave it to the United States, that would be
Yeah.
cool.
I would like that. But again,
I'd be okay with that too. Yes. Okay. Let's move on to Flight of Passage, which is a totally different storyline. Basically, okay, first of all, it lasts about 4.5 minutes. The humans and Na'vi are attempting to restore the Banshee population to natural levels after the mining tactics caused by the Resources Development Administration's generations prior. The Alpha Centauri Expeditions Group has reactivated the Avatar program through the Pandora Conservation Initiative as a method of conducting research, and basically allows us, the guests, the writers, to link with an avatar to fly on an Ikran, which we call Banshee. And we partake in the Navi's tribal coming-of-age tradition. And throughout the journey, you see like all sorts of Pandoran sites. You go into caves, you like ride, or you fly alongside animals, you go towards the ocean, a lot of different scenes. And it's really very beautiful.
it is.
Let's talk about the exit queue.
Soarin at DCA, you go back up some ramps and out into the bright, blinding sunlight, and it is quite boring.
Soarin at Epcot, you go out some long ramps, all indoors, past travel posters for destinations that you've seen on the ride. And for Flight of Passage, depending on where you're at on the ride vehicle, you either go up or down a set of stairs and eventually outside into like the forest jungle area by the gift shop. And while you're exiting, look for handprints from 3 important people involved in this project.
Is James Cameron one of them?
Egg. Well, of course.
Okay.
You'll have to look at the others. Their initials are under it.
Okay.
Height requirements.
Soarin has a 40-inch height requirement, while Flight of Passage has a 44-inch height requirement.
And for Soarin, if you don't measure up to the indicator on the seat, use the special buckle through the middle. Yep. My son has to do that.
And from what I've heard, if you do measure up to the height indicator, whatever you do not put that belt through the special loop in the middle.
Why?
Because it will squeeze parts of you that don't want to be squeezed.
Okay. That was a dumb question. My bad. Okay, moving on. Fireworks status. So DCA doesn't have fireworks. It has World of Color, but regardless, it's open. Epcot, the nighttime fireworks show takes place right at park closing, but there's still guests on the ride. It makes no difference. And there's no fireworks at Animal Kingdom, so for Flight of Passage, that's irrelevant. But they are all open during the rain.
Yeah, I mean, they're indoor rides.
Yes.
Soarin' at California Adventure and at Disney World do have Lightning Lane, regular Lightning Lane. Flight of Passage is on individual Lightning Lane as of the time of recording.
Yep. Single rider. So single rider at DCA for Soarin' has come and gone, but as of today, it's listed as single rider eligible. And at Epcot, like a few months ago, they were testing it. It like comes and goes. I don't know if they're still testing it or not. And then Flight of Passage does not officially have single rider line, but if you are a single rider and you get to that, like a certain point in the queue, they'll start calling for single riders and you'll pass a good portion of people. So
yeah, can confirm.
All right. With that, I think it's time for our final showdown. Do we see eye to eye? Does one ride rise and soar above the others? So we are going to break this down into 3 separate showdowns here. First, we're going to do Soarin' over California versus Soarin' Around the World. We're just looking at like the ride experience, not park versus park for this one.
Yep.
So, Alli, Soarin' over California versus Soarin' Around the World.
This is the easiest showdown that we have ever done. Soaring over California is so superior to Soaring Around the World. It's like, why did they use all the CGI in Soaring Around the World? You're Disney. You have the money to do the filming. Like, it's not the real Taj Mahal, and it's very obvious that that is not the real Taj Mahal, and it drives me crazy every time. Soaring over California everything is real except for maybe the golf ball, but I don't care because it looks real.
Yes. I'm just as passionate as you are about this. Soarin' Over California wins, hands down. It's not even like the CGI is bad, but it's like, why did you have to CGI a polar bear and a whale? Like,
Because all the polar bears are dying, CJ.
well, to me, it's like, like the whale and the kite transition. Like, I don't like the transitions. I don't think it needed to do that. I liked in the original Soarin' Over California version how the transitions felt natural. They weren't forced, and they were timed with the music. Like when the music kind of changed a little bit, that's when the scene cut.
Yeah.
And so I just don't get that like smooth feeling in Soarin' Around the World.
Terrible.
I also think the scenes feel shorter in Soarin' Around the World than they do in Soarin' Over California.
Interesting, because like they are about the same length, and they have the same number of scenes.
I'm just thinking, like, the one in Sydney, like, the Sydney one in particular, like, you're hardly there, and then all of a sudden a plane is flying in front of you, and you're cutting to a different scene.
It's just not good.
I don't know. Yeah, I just don't like it. So, moving on, how about we talk about, like, Soarin' at DCA versus Soarin' at Epcot? Like, where does it make more sense? What queue do you think is better, etc.?
So I think land-wise, it makes more sense for where it is in California Adventure, because Grizzly Peak is Grizzly Peak Airfield. Makes sense, you're doing a ride in the air. Epcot, it makes no sense because it's in the land. So why are you doing a ride that's in the air if it's the land? I mean, to an extent, I get it. I think it makes wonderful sense to be in Epcot because it's got World Showcase, so it really fits the park as a whole thematically. I don't know where else I would put it, honestly, but anyways, in terms of, I don't know. So I feel like queue wise, I want the entrance queue of California Adventure with the exit queue of Epcot.
So for you, it sounds like the DCA version wins overall.
Yeah, I think so, because all it needs is a better exit queue, and I'm on board.
Okay. I'm still really struggling because, like, I see your point about, like, why is it in the land if you're flying? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, you're not, I don't know. Maybe it would make more sense over by Test Track and Mission Space, and it could be like, you know, you're driving, you're in a space shuttle, and on this ride, you're in a hang glider. Like, it's a third form of transportation. Like, to me, that makes sense. So maybe if they moved it over there, Soarin' would win, like, Epcot would win. Because I actually don't mind the concourse themed queue, and I think it's well executed from start to finish. And their costumes are really cool. I really like their costumes. But now that they changed Soarin' Over California to Soarin' Around the World, it feels a little weird in DCA. Like, they're trying to go with, like, the California aviation history angle, which I like because I'm a historian, but, like, thematically it doesn't really make sense. But I do really like that, like, aviation museum that's inside. This is really hard.
Yeah, it is. Why do we do this to ourselves?
I think I'm actually going to go with Epcot for this one because I like the international destinations tying into Epcot. In my perfect world, DCA would always have Soarin' Over California.
Yes,
and
agreed.
Epcot's version would move, like, to where Guardians is.
So I think, this is just me spitballing, but I think the reason that it's over in the land is to have an e-ticket on that side of the park. Because there's not really another one over there.
Excuse me, you do not defile living with the land like that.
It's okay, it's a wonderful ride, but it's not what would be considered an e-ticket.
Yeah, I know. It's not, like, thrilling like Soarin' is. Okay, yeah, I get that. That makes sense. All right. The final thing we're going to do, because we got to throw Flight of Passage here somewhere, we are going to rank Soarin' Over California versus Soarin' Around the World versus Flight of Passage, with number 1 being your favorite, 2 second, 3 is the least favorite. So, Alli, go ahead and start us off.
So, I am going to give Soarin' Over California the edge over Flight of Passage. And the main reason that I'm doing this is because more people can ride Soarin' over California.
Okay.
There's not a size accessibility issue, and you can go on it if you're shorter. Where Flight of Passage, if you're curvy, it can be a problem. Even despite how cool the ride vehicles are. I mean, I'm sorry, the Banshees. Um, Flight of Passage does take a close second on my list, and I'm throwing Soarin' Around the World in the trash where it belongs.
Oh my gosh, that was harsh. Okay, I didn't think you were gonna say that. Okay, my ranking is actually exactly the same as yours, but the reason why Soarin' over California is better than Flight of Passage for me doesn't really have anything to do with accessibility. It's the glasses on Flight of Passage. Like, the 3D doesn't like work all the time unless you're looking like straight on. Like, the glasses seem like kind of narrow. They're not as big as other 3D attractions, and it just doesn't always work. And I think they could be a little more consistent about that. But yeah,
I'll say, if you're a guest who needs to wear glasses to see,
oh yeah,
and you've
good
got
luck.
the like I feel like these glasses that I'm wearing right now might be bigger than the 3D glasses on Flight of Passage.
Yes.
So that would be a problem. I don't need these for like vision, but that would be a problem. These are normal sized glasses. They aren't like big bug eye ones or anything.
Right. I think they could like improve the technology on that a little bit. Yeah, Soarin' Around the World is way at the bottom for me, for sure.
Not in the trash, though?
Not quite, because my son really likes it, so...
Okay. But he doesn't know any better. He's, almost 5. He doesn't know Soarin' over California.
He will one day. I will make sure of it.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any final thoughts on Soarin' or Flight of Passage?
Ride them if you can. It's worth it.
Yeah. And if you're a world person who has never been on Soarin' over California, make sure to get over to DCA during the Food and Wine Festival at some point to get on Soarin' over California so you can see how good it is, because they haven't brought it back to World, and I don't think that they will, unfortunately. So
I have a question for you, CJ. Soarin' over California. We agree that it is phenomenal. Is there anything about the ride film that you would change or do differently? Or do you think it is 100% perfect as is?
The downtown Los Angeles section needs to be refilmed because it's like the camera's like shaky. So I would love to see them refilm that. Otherwise, I think it's like pretty perfect as is.
Okay. Would you want them to recapture the Disneyland part if they haven't already done so?
No, because it's like such a specific moment in Disneyland history. And I believe the Christmas parade is going on.
It is.
Well, yeah, so I think that's cool.
That's probably why I've never spotted Rocket Rods, because I'm always looking for Santa. You can, in fact, see Santa in the Disneyland scene.
I've seen him, too. Yes. All right. What would you change, if anything?
You make a good point about the downtown LA scene. The one thing that's always bothered me about that specific scene is that it's sped up. So you can tell that it's rush hour traffic, but all the cars are still moving like really, really fast. But it's
I've never noticed that.
Yeah, it's completely stop and go traffic. It's just sped up like 10x, so it looks like they're moving.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to watch that.
And maybe that's why it's kind of shaky wobbly, because it's sped up so much.
Maybe. I'm going to have to go on YouTube and watch the video. But it's a good ride all around. Like, it's like a solid, like, Disney knocked it out of the park on that ride. Thank you for joining us as we went on a trip around the world, across California, and to Avatar, the World of Pandora. Let us know, what do you think? If you think Soarin' over California is trash or not. If you think Soarin' Around the World is trash or not. And what do you think about the inclusivity issues on Flight of Passage? You can send us an email at park2parkpod@gmail.com. That's with the number 2. You can follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Park2Park Podcast.
No, it's just Park2Park Pod.
Park2Park Pod. Thank you. I knew that. Next episode is our finale. And for our finale, we will be kind of going over a very brief recap of every episode this season, making any corrections that we need to make, and also determining who is the overall winner this season. And yeah, so stay tuned to find out who wins the e-tickets, Walt Disney World or Disneyland Resort. And with that, smash that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, give us stars, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, and don't tell them if they're a friend or an enemy.
So here's something. Tell your friends about Soarin' over California, but tell your enemies about Soarin' Around the World.
Oh, Alli. Oh, I kind of like that, but it's a little evil.
I am in apparently a savage mood tonight.
Apparently. Well, I think we should just head out before Alli's computer black screens on us again. So with that, we will see you all next time.